In 1939, Europe found itself again at war. After the German invasion of Poland in September, the Allied powers declared war on Germany, seeing it as a repeat of the First World War. The French military strategists proposed Plan D, a counterattack of a possible German invasion through Belgium just like in 1914, halting their forces at the River Dyle. However, the Germans were planning an offensive through the Ardennes, a weak position in the Allied lines from where they could encircle the best of Allied forces, called the Manstein Plan or Fall Gelb. In this video, we are going to analyze the careful planning behind this attack and what was its outcome, while also mentioning the use of Blitzkrieg in this plan. The Manstein Plan was a counterpart to the French Dyle plan for the Battle of France. Lieutenant General Erich von Manstein dissented from the 1939 versions of Fall Gelb, Case Yellow, a plan for an invasion of France and the Low Countries, devised by Franz Halder. The original of Marschanweisung Nummer 1, Fall Gelb, Campaign Instruction Number 1, Case Yellow, was a plan to push the Allied forces back through central Belgium to the Somme River in northern France, with similarities to the 1914 campaign of the First World War. On January 10, 1940, a German aircraft carrying documents with parts of the plan for Fall Gelb crashed in Belgium, known as the Mechelin incident, prompting another review of the invasion plan. Halder revised Fall Gelb to an extent enough Marschanweisung Nummer 3, Fall Gelb, and Manstein was able to convince Hitler in a meeting on 17 February that the Wehrmacht should attack through the Ardennes, followed by an advance to the coast. Manstein, Chief of Staff of Army Group A, had originally formulated his plan in October 1939 in Koblenz on the instigation of his commander, General Gerd von Rundstedt, who rejected Halder's plan, partly through professional rivalry and part because it could not inflict a decisive victory over France. Manstein first thought to follow annihilation theory, envisaging a swing from Sedan to the north, rapidly to destroy the Allied armies in a cauldron battle. When discussing his intentions with Lieutenant General Heinz Guderian, the commander of the 19th Panzer Corps, Guderian proposed to avoid the main body of the Allied armies and swiftly advance with the armoured divisions to the English Channel, taking the Allies by surprise and cutting their supply routes from the south. Manstein had many reservations about the proposal, fearing the long open flank to the south that would be created by such a bold advance. Guderian managed to convince him that the danger of a French counter-offensive from the south could be averted by a simultaneous secondary spoiling offensive southwards in the general direction of Reims. When Manstein first presented his ideas to OKH, he did not mention Guderian and made the attack to the north the main effort, with a few armoured divisions protecting the left flank of the manoeuvre. The changes were included because the original conception was too bold to be acceptable to many generals, who also considered Guderian too radical. Halder and Walther von Brauchitsch rejected the Manstein concept. Reformulating it in a more radical sense did not help. Manstein and Halder were rivals. In 1938, Manstein had been the successor of the Chief of Staff Ludwig Beck, but had been ousted when the latter was disgraced over the Blomberg-Fritsch affair. On September 1, 1938, Halder rather than Manstein had replaced Beck. In late January, Halder got rid of Manstein by having him promoted to the command of 38th Corps in East Germany. In late January, Lieutenant Colonel Gunther Blumentritt and Major Henning von Treschkow, on Manstein's staff, contacted Lieutenant Colonel Rudolf Schmundt, an old acquaintance of Treschkow, the army attaché of Adolf Hitler, when he was visiting Koblenz, who informed Hitler of the affair on 2 February. Having found the Halder plan unsatisfactory from the start, Hitler ordered a change of strategy on 13 February in accordance with Manstein's thinking, after having heard only a rough outline. Manstein was invited to the Reich Chancellery in Berlin to meet Hitler on 17 February in the presence of Alfred Jodl and Erwin Rommel. Though Hitler felt an immediate antipathy against Manstein for being arrogant and aloof, he listened silently to his exposition and was impressed by Manstein's thinking. Hitler remarked after Manstein had left, Certainly an exceptionally clever fellow with great operational gifts, but I don't trust him. Manstein took no more part in the planning and returned to eastern Germany. Halder had to revise the plan again, which became Aufmarschanweisung Nummer 4, Fall Gelb. The new plan conformed to Manstein's thinking in that Army Group A would provide the main thrust of the invasion through the Ardennes in southern Belgium. After crossing the Meuse River between Namur and Sedan, Army Group A would turn northwest towards Amiens, as Army Group B executed a feint attack in the north to lure the Allied armies forward into Belgium and pin them down. The revision was a substantial change in emphasis, in which Halder no longer envisaged a simultaneous secondary attack to the west, but made it the main effort. The dash for Abbeville was removed, river crossings were to be forced by infantry, and there would be a long period of consolidation by a large number of infantry divisions crossing into the bridgeheads. The armoured divisions would then advance together with the infantry, not in an independent operational penetration. Halder rejected the idea of forestalling the French with a simultaneous attack to the south to occupy the assembly areas that the French would use for a counter-offensive. Five panzer divisions of Panzer Group von Kleist advanced through the Ardennes, 19th Panzer Corps with 3 panzer divisions on the southern flank towards Sedan against the French Second Army. The 51st Panzer Corps with 2 panzer divisions on the northern flank advanced towards Munthem against the French 9th Army of General André Corap. 15th Corps moved through the upper Ardennes towards Dinant with 2 panzer divisions as a flank guard against a counterattack from the north. From 10 to 11 May, 19th Panzer Corps engaged the 2 cavalry divisions of the Second Army, surprised them with a far larger force than expected and forced them back. The 9th Army, to the north, had also sent its 2 cavalry divisions forward, which were withdrawn on 12 May before they met German troops. Corap needed the cavalry divisions to reinforce the defences on the Meuse because some of the 9th Army infantry had not arrived. The most advanced German units reached the Meuse in the afternoon. Local French commanders thought that the German parties were far ahead of the main body and would wait for it before trying to cross the river. From 10 May, Allied bombers had been sent to raid northern Belgium to delay the German advance, while the First Army moved up, but attacks on the bridges at Maastricht had been costly failures. The 135-day bombers of the RAF Advanced Air Striking Force were reduced to 72 operational aircraft by 12 May. Against the plan, Guderian and the other panzer generals disobeyed their orders and quickly advanced to the Channel. The panzer forces captured Abbeville and then fought the Battle of Boulogne and the Siege of Calais, only temporarily being halted by orders from Hitler on 17, 22 and 24 May. After the hold orders, the panzer forces advanced to the North Sea coast and fought the Battle of Dunkirk. The Manstein Plan devastated the Allies, whose armies were cut in two, those in the north being encircled by Army Groups A and B, leading to the surrender of the Belgian Army and Operation Dynamo, the evacuation of the BEF and French forces from Dunkirk. Defeat in the north and the lack of mobile reserves led to the defeat of the remaining French and British forces in Fall Rot and the armistice of June 22, 1940. The success of the German invasion surprised everyone. The Germans had hardly dared hope for such a result. Most generals had vehemently opposed the plan as being much too risky, even though supporting it had mainly done so out of desperation because the geostrategic position of Germany seemed so hopeless. Two of the most prominent were Hitler and Halder. Hitler had not liked Halder's original plans and had suggested many alternatives, some of them bearing a resemblance to the Manstein Plan, the closest being a proposal made by him on October 25, 1939. Soon, Nazi propaganda began to claim that the victory was a result of Hitler's military genius. Hitler said, "Of all the generals with whom I spoke about the new attack plan in the West, Manstein was the only one who understood me." After the war, Halder claimed he was the main instigator of the German plan, supporting this with the fact that he had begun to consider changing the main axis to Sedan as early as September 1939, and that Manstein's original proposal was too traditional. The Manstein Plan is often seen as either the result of or the cause of a mid-20th century revolution in military affairs, in the former hypothesis, expounded by J.F.C. Fuller and Basil Littlehart immediately after the events. The Manstein Plan is presented as a result of the evolution of German military thinking since the First World War by Hans von Seeckt and Guderian, adopting the ideas of Fuller or Littlehart. If true, an explicit Blitzkrieg doctrine would have been established by 1939 and been the basis of the plan for the invasion of Poland. The Manstein Plan would have been its most spectacular implementation. Blitzkrieg theory would have been reflected in the organization and equipment of the army and Luftwaffe and would have been radically different from those of France, Britain and the Soviet Union, except for the contributions of individuals like Mikhail Tukhachevsky, Charles de Gaulle, Fuller and Littlehart. That the earliest plans by Halder or Manstein and the final plan by Halder did not conform to this doctrine is an anomaly to be explained by circumstances. The French had prepared to fight a methodical battle based on massed firepower against an opponent that emphasized surprise and speed. French training for a centralized and slow-moving battle left the army incapable of hasty counterattacks or bold moves. The French army lost the initiative, was overrun at important points, and then deep German penetrations made the disruption of French command arrangements worse.